Welcome back to the Professional Hate Watching Association. My name is Ethan Galbraith. I'm here with Daniel Palmore. Like always, I want to start, first of all, back-to-back uploads for the first time in a while. Going a little earlier than usual because I have complicated schedule. But I want to open with something that we said or something that you said on the last episode that we ran, where I believe you said that Giannis was going to be traded by the deadline and he was going to be in a Minnesota Timberwolves uniform. That did not happen. Your reaction to that?
Did I say that? Are you sure I said that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm 100% sure you said that.
Yeah, who am I kidding? There's video proof that I did say that. And yes, I was wrong. I was optimistic that the two sides were finally going to come to the realization that a split needed to happen. And my reaction is another season in the garbage, in the toilet for Giannis, in the midst of his prime. Just turned 31 years old not too long ago. One of the most dominant players in the league is not going to have a chance to compete for a championship this year for like the fourth year in a row where he's like legitimately not able to compete for a title because the situation around him just isn't good enough. So it's unfortunate, but we got Cam Thomas ball in Milwaukee now. So I at least have that to be excited about for the rest of the year.
You sound super excited about it.
I'm super excited. I actually watched some of his first game yesterday, or I believe it was 2 days ago. He played against the Magic and he scored, I think it was 4 points on like 1 of 5 shooting. So another ball hog guard to go with Giannis, even though he was complaining about guys being selfish and taking bad shots. So what do the Bucks do? They sign Cam Thomas to a 1-year deal for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's interesting because the whole reason why Cam Thomas was available in the first place was because nobody wanted to trade for him.
Right.
And so the Nets just waived him. And the Bucks just...
And he didn't wave back. He signed the Bucks.
We got a lot to talk about, but a couple of things happened before the deadline, since we went live last Wednesday night. Obviously, while we were recording, the Porzingis to Golden State news broke. But now that the dust has settled, how do you feel? Do you feel at all like the landscape of the race for the title has changed much? Because I know you were like the Bucks the Bucks, for example, have not, their window hasn't changed. And for me, the Warriors haven't changed either. But has there been anything that, now that the dust is settled, is there anything that you look at and you're like, wow, okay, this team actually probably made a really good move that could put them farther ahead?
I feel like whichever teams people thought were going to win the title, no matter who it was, probably stayed the same after the deadline, because I think really the only guy that could have gotten moved that could have really changed that was Giannis getting traded to, whether it was Miami, Minnesota, Golden State, or any of those 4 teams that were legitimately interested in him. So I think whoever you thought was going to win the title, whether it's the Thunder, whether it's the Knicks, the Celtics, the Pistons, the Spurs, the Nuggets, whoever, people still hold true to those opinions. And of those teams, the Thunder are really the only one that made a move. Celtics got Vucevic, but the Thunder just said, we have so many draft picks, we're just going to finally get rid of some and trade for Jared McCain, who the Sixers just flat out gave up on. They gave up on him. So I think that's such a low risk, high reward move for the Thunder, considering all the draft picks that they have. All the depth that they already have on their team. So if Jared McCain's able to play like he did in his rookie year, that just makes the Thunder that much better. But since Giannis didn't get moved, I don't think it really changed the championship landscape all that much. I think the biggest move that happened, I think, after we got off air was Anthony Davis getting traded to the Wizards. I think that happened the following morning on the day of the trade deadline, that Thursday, I believe. So he was arguably the biggest name player besides James Harden that got moved. But outside of that, I don't really think the championship landscape changed all that much.
What about this Clippers Pacers trade? That happened the next day after we went off the air. The move that included Zubac moving to Indiana. Obviously, the Pacers are in the toilet right now. They're not doing anything without Halliburton. But when Halliburton comes back, I am intrigued by that.
Me as well. I think that's a really good trade for the Pacers because they needed a center. After Miles Turner left and went to the Bucks, they were kind of lacking in that 5 spot. I think Jay Huff has been starting most of the games for that center this year. And Zubats has always been a really, really good quality center. And just like how James Harden was a great pick and roll partner for him in LA, Tyrese Halliburton arguably might be even better than James Harden right now just because of his youth and what he's able to do athleticism wise on the court. So I think when the Pacers are healthy next year, the interesting part of the trade is the draft pick that they gave up, because if it falls in between that 5 to 9 range, then the Clippers get it. And then if it doesn't, I think it's a late first round pick. That's what the deal is in the trade. So it's a little confusing as to why Indiana would risk that draft capital that they have, because that's kind of what they're banking on for next year, because they're going to come back next year healthy with a top lottery pick. But I mean, you get Halliburton back next year. You have Zubats. That replaces Miles Turner. I think that's a good Miles Turner replacement. He doesn't bring the 3-point shooting that Miles Turner did, but I mean, still a really good quality big for Indiana next year when they're healthy.
Don't you find it interesting how the Clippers were one of the best teams in basketball in January and then blew the whole thing up?
Pretty much, yeah. That was pretty interesting, and it was so confusing. Teams actually thought they were blowing the whole thing up and were calling about Kawhi Leonard with like 30 minutes to go in the trade deadline, which was pretty funny. And obviously the Clippers didn't end up trading him, but it's a little odd that the Clippers were, like you said, one of the best teams since the start of the new year. It was like them and the Hornets were like dominating the league since the start of the new year. And James Harden just randomly decided to ask out like he always does. Kawhi Leonard's playing, like we said last week, some of the best basketball of his career. They traded Zubats. But I mean, they got Ben Mathurin back. I think that's a really good piece for the Clippers. He's a young guy who I think could really have some potential to be a really, really good player. So I think that's some positive news for the Clippers in that trade as well.
Mathurin ball, baby.
Let's
talk about the Hornets, though, because you're talking about the hottest teams of the new year, and Charlotte has to be up there. They won 9 games in a row up until just the other day,
right,
when they lost to the number 1 seed Detroit Pistons. But the Hornets winning 9 games is, first of all, the Hornets were kind of, I viewed it like this. I viewed the Hornets and the Trailblazers at right around the same level, which is they're like below average teams. They're probably not going to, they might not make the playoffs. For context, you brought this up. The Hornets won 9 games in a row, and they're still the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference. Still the 10th seed
in the East, yeah.
So are they going to win a championship? No, but both of them have a pretty good resume in terms of wins. Like the Hornets to get 8 wins in a row, which was their first winning streak of such since I think they said the PS2 came out, I think is what the stat that was flying around.
That's hilarious.
Their first 8-game winning streak pretty much of the 21st century. And that 8th win came against the Houston Rockets in Houston.
Right.
Like they've been stacking some really nice wins. What is going on in Charlotte?
I mean, you talk about they beat the Rockets, they beat San Antonio, they beat Dallas. And I know Dallas isn't a great team, but Cooper Flagg is playing some of the best basketball he's played all year. So it's hard to beat the Mavs either way. They almost, let me see, I'm looking at their schedule. So yeah, some of those, they beat Orlando as well. They beat the brakes off the Magic. So I think they're just finally putting together all those young pieces they have, because we know what LaMelo Ball can do from an offensive standpoint, his playmaking, his flashiness at the point guard position, being as tall as he is, how lethal of a weapon that is. If there was no Cooper Flagg, Con Knippel would easily be the rookie of the year. Like people are already saying he might be the next Steph Curry. And I always think that's such hyperbole. He might be a really, really good shooter, but I don't think anybody's going to be Steph Curry. You still have Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges are 2 very productive players as well. So I think they're finally just putting together all that talent they've accumulated over the years. And like you said, this year, I think they got off to too rough of a start to actually contend for anything in the playoffs or anything further than that. But in the future years, though, maybe starting next season, they could be a really good team and some teams that people would have to fear going forward.
I think another part that sometimes people gloss over is that they got Kobe White at the trade deadline.
True.
Which that's not, I think some people, because he was, I
mean, I just Chicago. Over it. I completely forgot about that.
Because he was rotting away in Chicago, it kind of went like an under the radar move.
Right.
They traded away Colin Sexton and they get Kobe White, which I think is an upgrade. No disrespect to the young bull, but I don't know. I feel like the Hornets winning 9 games is probably the funniest storyline of the season.
Yeah.
For 2 reasons. One, we've both called them multiple times the most unserious team in basketball. That might now be the Nets.
They all hoop with one AirPod in. At least
Yeah.
they used to.
That might now be the Nets, but for the last couple years, the Hornets have been the most unserious team in basketball. So for that team to go and then win 9 games is pretty insane. But it also makes how that winning streak ended even funnier. So the winning streak came to an end versus the number 1 seeded Detroit Pistons. Now the Pistons have been up and down. Obviously, they're still the number 1 seed, but they recently lost to the Wizards.
Yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious. But the Pistons go into the Spectrum Center and they get the win, but that's not why people are talking about this game. They're talking about this game because I think it's safe to say that those 2 teams brawled. I think we can call that a brawl.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, for sure. It was one of the more, I think, maybe violent fights that we've seen in recent memory, because the NBA is obviously, after Malice at the Palace, which also obviously involved the Pistons, it's been a sport that has really, really tried to not let any sort of violence like that occur. And I mean, it started in the third quarter when Jalen Duren and Moussa Diabate started getting into it. One of the players got fouled, and then Jalen Duren basically gave him like a 5-star to the face, just took his hand and just shoved him like that. And then they started getting into it. Miles Bridges got involved. And it wouldn't be a fight involving the Detroit Pistons if Isaiah Stewart wasn't involved, right? Like, it just doesn't feel right if
he put the beef in beef stew
on the court, and he stormed off the bench and tried to fight Miles Bridges. And also for Malice at the Palace, one of the rules is if you leave the bench when you're not on the court during a fight, it's an automatic suspension, like no questions asked. And they handed out punishments for those guys that were involved in the fight, and safe to say, I think everybody got what they deserved. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, I don't know if you viewed this the same way that I viewed it, but I just feel like I'm not going to advocate that the NBA should allow fighting, but I do think that a lot of people complain about how stale and pedestrian the NBA regular season can be.
Right.
So when stuff like this happens, it's obviously a big deal because of the implications, but also, you know, it's a change.
Yeah.
It's something to watch that isn't just, you know, unethical hoops, Thunderball. Right.
I saw somebody say in a comment section on a post that the NBA should let the 2 guys who started the fight just duke it out like they do in hockey, and everybody just stands around and watches. I don't know if they can do that, because I think it would get way too violent, especially with that. I don't think NBA players, you hear players say this all the time, nobody's really trying to fight in the NBA, I feel like. But if you get 2 guys like Duren and Diabate who are in the moment just heated at each other like that, and you just let them go at it, I don't think it should be anything like that, because that could probably get really, really ugly. But I do agree that when we see fights like this where nobody gets hurt, but people are getting riled up, it definitely makes the games more exciting, especially between 2 teams where, like, even though the Pistons are the 1 seed in the East, nobody's really glued to their eyes watching them because they play in Detroit. They haven't been good forever. And same thing with the Hornets. They're just now starting to kind of find their footing, but they've historically been a pretty bad team. So that's a reason to tune in, because maybe this is going to be some kind of mini rivalry going forward. And if the Pistons maintain the top seed in the East, who knows, maybe Charlotte gets that 8th seed, makes the playoffs, and then you get a 5 or 6 game series of these 2 teams, which could be pretty interesting.
Speaking of the Hornets making the playoffs potentially, as you said, they've won 9 games in a row. They had won 9 games in a row. They're still the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference. That's play-in level, basement play-in level. They might make the Chicago, Miami, Atlanta Invitational.
Right.
So the Charles Barkley has said that he thinks the Hornets are going to not just make the play-in, but the playoffs. Do you think that that's actually feasible?
I think it's feasible, but I feel like with the Charles Barkley curse, I don't know how prevalent it is nowadays, but I just feel like anything Charles Barkley says, the opposite usually happens. So I think the Hornets are going to stay in the top 10, so they'll at least be in the play-in tournament. but I'm not as sold on them making the playoffs as I am just them being in the play-in tournament. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a big step for them. So I think being in the play-in tournament is a good step forward, and then they can carry that momentum into next year. But if you look at who's in that field right now, I believe it's Orlando sitting at 7. Charlotte's obviously in there at 10. I think Miami
It's
might
Miami
be
and Atlanta at 8 and 9.
okay. So like those are decent teams. I mean, I think any one of those teams, since the plan is like the closest thing we have to a one and done scenario in the NBA, any of those teams could sneak up on them any night and beat them. Because it's not like the Hornets are world beaters yet. So I think it's definitely feasible, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year.
Well, it's funny you say that because they have a chance at nearly all of those teams coming up. Their schedule reads, their upcoming schedule reads is this. Today they play the Hawks. They have the Hawks, then they have the Rockets, the Cavs, the Wizards, the Bulls, the Pacers, the Blazers, the Mavericks, the Celtics.
That's not a bad schedule. They could win a lot of these games.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And that Heat game is first week of March. So you're talking about a week from now, the Hornets might have an above 500 record.
I mean, their toughest game in that stretch, I mean, they play Houston again. Cleveland's obviously going to be a tough game. I think those are really the only two that stand out to me as, they might not win those games. So, I mean, yeah, the schedule definitely favors them for the rest of the month until it gets a little harder in March because they play some of these West teams. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. They could go on a little run here. Who knows?
And like everybody else, they get to recharge after today for the All-Star break. So,
right. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that I'm not going to say the Hornets are making the playoffs just because I think part of it is so many people are unfamiliar with them.
Right.
Like I don't know how many NBA fans have actually watched a Charlotte Hornets basketball game beginning to end this year.
That's true.
Like, I think probably most fans' exposure was if they tuned into when Cooper Flagg had 49 points.
Right.
But the Hornets still won that game.
Well, I have an idea as to how people can maybe get more familiar with them. You want to hear my idea, my proposal?
Mm-hmm.
So the Hornets happen to control pretty much all of their draft picks until 2032, all of their first and second round draft picks. They just went on a 9-game winning streak. I already talked about how they have LaMelo Ball, they have pieces. LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple, Rookie of the Year candidate, Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller are great players. I think you could entertain offering the Bucks some of those guys in the offseason. You have all these draft picks. Giannis in Charlotte. I mean, Charles Lee, their head coach, he's familiar with him. He was on the Bucks coaching staff in Giannis's first MVP season, I believe, before he left and was an assistant in Boston for a while. So, I mean, I can see the Hornets as a team, depending on how they finish the season, potentially being a sleeper in the Giannis sweepstakes this offseason. Now, would he want to go to Charlotte? Probably not. But I mean, you stay in the East, you're with a coach that you're familiar with, and you're going to be on a team with some good players, depending on who they keep. Like if Kobe White is still there, I don't think they would give up Khan in a Giannis trade. I think they probably view him as maybe their best player going forward in a few years. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that's a team to watch for. I think they're definitely a sleeper team heading into the offseason.
It's interesting you say that because A, nobody has brought up the Hornets yet, but B, we just saw another team in a similar situation make moves to expedite their rebuild. I'm thinking of the Wizards, for example. They obviously have a plethora of young talent. The rebuild has they're not winning a whole lot of games, but the rebuild to a lot of people's metrics, beliefs, is that it's going well. And now you make these moves to trade away some players and capital to bring in Trae Young and Anthony Davis as an investment because neither of them are going to play this year probably. Well, AD isn't.
Yeah.
There's questions about if the Hornets, quote, took that metaphorical rebuild out of the oven too early. I said it last time we were talking about Anthony Davis. I'm not saying that this would influence the Hornets to do anything, but you said it earlier, and I'll say it again here. The Hornets don't even have a full season with these guys yet. And even then, they haven't been healthy together the entire season. That's part of why they won 9 games in a row. Right. Because they've finally been together for an extended period of time and they started to gel. So I understand the appeal of wanting to go get a player like Giannis. But I wonder if the Hornets would at all be hesitant to pull that trigger because they want to see what they have right now. And they wouldn't have to pay as much money, at least yet, for it to work.
Yeah,
But if you trade away some of those are players you don't have to pay
that's true.
down the line. So like you already have LaMelo on contract. I think Miles Bridges is on contract too, but like you're gonna have to pay Brandon Miller soon. I don't know what Kobe White's contract is. Con Knipple, that contract is coming eventually. So I just don't know if Charlotte would want to. It's obviously has nothing to do with Giannis's caliber as a player. It's
Yeah,
just, a money thing too. Like
yeah,
if I can do 2 more years with this lineup and I don't have to actually pay him a whole lot of money yet, like
yeah.
let's see what happens. Although I don't know if this Hornets team as is even 2 years down the line is a title competing team.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it all just depends on how Con Knipple and Brandon Miller, how all those guys progress over the next couple seasons. But I
And,
mean,
and
I think that's another team. Another team just piqued my interest.
see
So
now you're just saying teams. Now you're
maybe
just saying things.
maybe I'll take my talents to Buzz City, to the what do they call Charlotte? What's the nickname for the? It has a nickname. I can't
The
remember.
Queen City.
Yes, maybe that's where I'll be taking my talents, my NBA fandom
My
over the
NBA
next like
fandom.
4 or 5 years.
I do. Speaking of Charlotte, the uniforms this year have been nice. Like I don't remember if they had those uniforms last year, but how they're kind of redone retros of the original
Yeah,
jersey they had in the '90s with the pinstripes.
yeah,
Those are cool.
yeah,
You can then if Giannis were ever to go to the Hornets, you could put that LaMelo clip on your social media. You go, "New year, new me." Same me though.
right, exactly, yeah. Oh, and
So
before we wrap up, the punishments for the fight that happened during the game.
oh yeah,
Isaiah Stewart got 7 games. Miles Bridges got 4 games. Musa Diabate got 4 games. That's the dude that Jalen Duren shoved in the face. And then Jalen Duren actually only got suspended for 2 games, which I thought was the most surprising out of the whole thing because he's basically the one that started that whole fight. So I think maybe Miles Bridges might have thrown a punch. That's the only thing I can think of that might have gotten him more of a punishment than Duren did. But those were the suspensions that got handed out. Isaiah Stewart is just hilarious. He's
I tell you, he puts the beef in beef stew, man.
yeah,
I think a lot of NBA fans were introduced to him when he tried beefing with LeBron.
right, yeah,
That was the first time I ever heard of him.
yeah,
So glad to see he sticks to his what he's good at.
yeah. And I mean, he said after the game, he was like, "I got drafted to Detroit, so do you expect me not to fight?" But I mean, come on, dude, you're sitting on the bench. You know what the rules are. If you get off the bench and you go onto the court, you're gonna get suspended. So
Yeah.
I don't.
If he was already on the court, I would get it, but
Yeah,
yeah, just don't leave the bench. Don't do that.
yeah,
It sounds like they all just get extended all-star breaks. So
true. Yeah.
I just
Did you see Duncan Robinson during the fight? How he was just standing there
yes.
the whole time, just not really knowing what to do because he's like, "This is not my thing." So I'm just
Well, yeah, like I don't know what is bro supposed to do.
What's Macklemore gonna do there?
Macklemore. Dude, the Pistons are almost at 40 wins.
It's insane.
Like 39-13 they're at right now. I guess as we hit the All-Star break, obviously we're past the halfway point of the season now. What I also wanted to ask you, I guess, was as we hit the All-Star break, and then before I think some people would consider post All-Star break like the dog days of the NBA season because people are just looking forward to the playoffs at that point.
Yeah.
What has been the biggest surprise for you up to this point in the season? It can be the Pistons being the number 1 seed. It can be the Bucks are this horrible. Like, it could be the Warriors are mid again. Like, what's been the biggest surprise to you?
I think the biggest surprise to me has to be how well the Celtics have been playing without Jason Tatum this year. And Jaylen Brown is, if you look at the odds, I'm pretty sure he's a top 3 or 4 candidate for league MVP, which he absolutely should be. He's averaging basically 30 points a game this year. They're 34-19, second in the Eastern Conference behind Detroit without their best player, which I don't think anybody really expected going into this season. And I don't think anybody expected them to completely fall off the map either because they have other really, really good players like Derek White, who every time I look at his box score seems to be getting like 20 points, like 5+ assists, and like 3 or 4 blocks a game. And then we know how good Peyton Pritchard is off the bench as well. One of, if not, like, he's one of the best sixth men in the league for sure. And I think if he was on a different team where he had more of a role, he could definitely be like a consistent 20-point per game scorer in the league, which I think is crazy to say given how miniature he is compared to other NBA players. But you just see how much he works. And then I think the Vucevic trade, like I said last week, was a really good pickup at the deadline because it's basically Kristaps Porzingis, but without the defense, and he's more reliable. He has, I think, more of a complete offensive package than Porzingis does. Porzingis is more of just a spot-up three-point shooter. But, I mean, if you watched, like, Big Vooch in Orlando and those early seasons in Chicago, like, that man has footwork, and, like, he knows how to operate down low. So I think the Celtics have been the biggest surprise just because they're so good, even without Tatum. And, I mean, their team looks really, really good. And I wouldn't be surprised if they, like, messed around and won the East this year without Tatum. Even if Tatum comes back, like, I think they're that good.
I was going to say, I think Detroit being the number 1 seed has kind of masked some of the surprise, more of the surprise that I think should be there. And you agree that should be around the Celtics, the fact that they're second place in the Eastern Conference. I think some people forget even sometimes that Tatum's not out there.
Yeah.
Because it's anticipated that when the Celtics are healthy, they should be at this level, top 3 in the Eastern Conference, an Eastern Conference favorite. And they are still, but like you said, they're without the anomaly. I don't endorse that nickname, but I'm going to say it just because I can.
Yeah.
Speaking of Tatum, perfect segue into the fact that while the initial talk was, you remember this, we talked about this over the summer.
Like well before the season started, I think.
Like over the summer when he said that he wanted to come back and play this year from his torn Achilles. And I remember you and I were like, bro, don't do it. It's not that serious. And then all season, it looked like he was getting ready. And I remember a report coming out either last week or the week before that, how his target to play this year was then brought into question. It might not happen, which I saw that and I was like, fine. He's recovering from a torn Achilles. But the news just came out that he has been cleared to practice with the G League, the Celtics G League affiliate. So very similar to the path that Klay Thompson took when he was coming back from all of his injuries with the Warriors. He practiced with the Santa Cruz Warriors for a little while, and then he came back eventually. Dude, is Jason Tatum coming back?
Dude, I think it sounds crazy. I think it is crazy, but I mean, I guess if he's already practicing with the G League team, that's pretty much ramping him up for the playoffs. So, I mean, I'm still of the belief that you should take that full year off from the torn Achilles. I mean, we saw KD tear it in that last season with the Warriors. He took the whole year off. Tyrese Halliburton is taking the whole year off. I don't think it's ultra important for him to come back this year, but I mean, I guess the competitor to him, I guess it's just too much to overcome, I guess. I think we might be getting Tatum hoops this year, which I think is crazy to say. And if he does come back and performs well and is able to stay healthy, I think it's going to set a trend going forward for sure for NBA players and torn Achilles, that it might not have to be a year-long thing. So, like, that's the upside of it, but I'm still of the belief that he shouldn't come back. But, I mean, I'd be happy to see it. It'd be fun.
I almost wonder if the fact that the Celtics are still as good as they are and are clearly investing to win this year with the Vucevic trade is an indicator to Tatum that, hey, we're going for this. Like, if you're healthy to do so, get on the train. We're going for another title. And what's crazy is that I don't know if I agree with you in that this Celtics team, as it is right now, can definitely win the Eastern Conference. I don't know if they can win an NBA title because I don't think they can beat Oklahoma City. I don't know if they can beat Denver. They can probably beat Houston. Anybody can beat the Lakers.
Yeah.
But with Jason Tatum, then that adds another wrinkle because that's your best player coming back. And if Jason Tatum is anything at all like what he was pre-Achilles tear, which I imagine he would be, they could beat anybody.
I agree.
They realistically could beat anybody. Like the Pacers team last year took the Thunder to 7, and this is more or less the same team. Like the Celtics team's better than the Pacers team last year. So yeah, I can only imagine I imagine that has to maybe be a thought process as to why he's coming back. And I'm not going to say that he's rushing anything because doctors would obviously not approve of that. But I feel like that has to be some sort of motivation for him because his team is holding up their end of the bargain, which is we're still a very competitive team. A lot of people are now picking us to win the Eastern Conference and go compete for an NBA title. We just invested in this season to go and win. If you're healthy, come and join us. Because I don't think, you know how sometimes when players come back from injury mid-season and it runs the risk of altering the chemistry because role players have then stepped up to take bigger roles and it kind of throws everything into a loop. I don't think that does that with the Celtics though, because they're a pretty well-oiled machine. And Joe Mazzulla is psychotic in a good way. Like I imagine that he has that on lock.
No,
Mister, if I die, I'm taking you with me or something.
Yeah, whatever you said. And I think part of his reasoning, this is just a guess. And I think it kind of goes into what you were saying. It's pretty similar to like piggyback off it. I feel like Jason Tatum definitely knows the narrative surrounding him, and the narrative being that he's basically been one of like the most spoiled players in the NBA since he entered the league, from a standpoint of he was a lottery pick that got drafted to the Celtics had a top 3 pick coming off a season where they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. And yes, they got, I think it was gentlemen swept by the Cavs that year and LeBron. I think that was the year Avery Bradley hit that game winner. And in game 3, I believe it was, of the conference finals, if you remember that, the one that bounced around the rim and went in. So they got one game off the Cavs, go into the offseason with a top 3 pick. He gets drafted to Boston, and he's playing with, at the time, Gordon Hayward, who was one of the best players in the league before he got hurt, and they had just traded for Kyrie Irving. So you're already entering a situation as a rookie where you don't have to do a whole lot. You win a bunch of games your first year. You get to you're the 2 seed in the East. You get to the conference finals, and you come up short of the finals, but it's still a really great rookie season. And basically this whole time that Tatum's been in the NBA, he hasn't really had to face and this is not his fault, the adversity that some of the other top flight players had to have, because when LeBron was drafted to the Cavs, they were poverty. When Steph Curry got drafted to the Warriors, they were nowhere near ready to compete for titles. When Nikola Jokic was in Denver, same thing. Giannis, all these guys. Cooper Flagg now in Dallas, now that Luka's gone. So I think given the fact that he's seeing his team play so well, I feel like that narrative, look, the people are going to say, oh, the Celtics are second in the East without Jason Tatum. Is he really a top 5 player? Is he really as good as everybody says he is? So I think part of that, he'll never obviously admit this publicly, but I feel like he has to be thinking about that a little bit. And I think that's part of the reason why he might be rushing a potential comeback from an injury that guys normally take a whole year to sit out and recover from.
I feel like that would almost feed into that narrative more, though, if he were to come back and, try to come back and play, because it doesn't change the fact that he would still be let me walk this back. I don't feel like him rushing and playing, not rushing, but him coming back this season from a torn Achilles and playing this year would actually change any much with that narrative, because at the end of the day, he's still playing with a really stacked team that is ready to compete for an Eastern Conference crown, even without him. So I honestly just think the very root cause of it, and he would probably admit this himself, he loves the game, man.
Yeah.
Like he loves the game. He's a competitor.
And I think that's what it is. I think that's
you don't become a top 10 player in basketball by just coasting.
Yeah.
That man is addicted to basketball, and
for sure,
I don't blame him for it. I think part of that is probably because, again, he's been in a winning culture since he got drafted. Yeah. So you look at it, I understand the narrative, like what you're talking about. for some, I don't endorse it, but I understand where people are coming from when they say it. But then you can look at it from a glass half full perspective, which is this man has been around winning literally since he got drafted to the NBA. That's all he knows. That's all he wants to achieve. So I think it's a give and take type of thing. But if Jason Tatum comes back, I just again, we have to wait to see what he had, how he plays. I anticipate there being a minutes restriction on him. I don't think that's going to matter because by the time, if we're in early May and they're in a second round matchup with the New York Knicks, Jason Tatum's playing 40 minutes a night if he's able to. So I'm curious to see how it goes. Again, I don't anticipate chemistry being a problem for the Celtics.
Right.
Should Jason Tatum come back and play extensive minutes at any point. But that would shake up I think that would shake up the Eastern Conference race. When you think about the Celtics team right now is competitive, I would still give the edge to the Detroit Pistons, maybe even the New York Knicks. But if Jason Tatum comes back, I don't care what seed the Celtics have. It's their Eastern Conference to lose, in my opinion.
Which is why I feel like if you're the Knicks, I know that they obviously didn't trade for Giannis, but I think if you're the Knicks and you knew that going into the deadline, there's a chance Jason Tatum might come back. The Pistons just beat the Knicks. They 30-balled the Knicks twice. Like they beat them by 40, I think, last week, and then they played them again, beat them by like 30. So Detroit obviously wants revenge on the Knicks for what they did to them in the postseason last year. Even without Jason Tatum, Boston is still a formidable team. And so if I was the Knicks at the trade deadline, I know they want to say that they like their team how it is with OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns, who else do they have? Mikal Bridges, all these guys. They like the continuity they have. They're starting to figure it out. They had a little dry spell, but now they're 8-2 in the last 10 games. But I still think if you're the Knicks, I think that's why you go take a swing and get – I said this about basically the same thing I said about the Cavs last week. This is why you take that swing and go get a true needle mover like Giannis that really puts you over the top and makes those other two teams scared. Because I guarantee you, if the Knicks had Giannis on their team, the Celtics and the Pistons would fear them a little bit more. Because we've seen the Knicks like 2 postseasons in a row now. 2 years ago, it was without Cat. They had basically the same team with Julius Randle. They lost to the Pacers in the second round. And then they added Karl Anthony Towns, and they still couldn't get past Indiana. So what makes you think you're going to be able to beat Detroit and Boston, who are arguably more talented teams than the Pacers when healthy, with the same group of guys that you can get past the Pacers for? And I know matchups are different. I know the playoffs are all about matchups. I get that. But I just think in the playoffs, you need superstars. You need game changers. Like, I don't think Karl Anthony Towns, with all due respect, with the utmost respect, is a game changer for a team that's trying to win a championship. I know Giannis is. I've seen him do it before. And so I think that's where the Knicks missed out on that opportunity to really put themselves over the top in the Eastern Conference, considering how they look compared to the two teams that are in front of them, especially Detroit. Like, Detroit's coming out for blood. They have to worry about the Pistons.
You bring up an interesting point about the Knicks, and you point to Karl Anthony Towns. The first player I look at is Jalen Brunson, because obviously he's a statistical marvel. He's an offensive juggernaut, but he is a bad defender.
Right.
People talk about other players being bad defenders. Luka Doncic gets flack for being a bad defender, and there's some merit there. Jalen Brunson is a statistically bad defender. And we have seen this year after year that you got to play good defense in the playoffs. Defense, people get criticized the regular season because defense might not matter, and you see the high scoring games, whatever. Defense matters in the playoffs, and it shouldn't be that much of a stark contrast. That's a conversation for another day. But defense matters more in the NBA playoffs than the regular season. And I'm not saying the Knicks should move on from Jalen Brunson. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that there's clearly I'm not going to go as far as to call him a cone on defense, but the Knicks are missing that critical defense at the point guard position that Detroit has, that Boston has. Dare I say Philly might get it with depending on VJ Edgecombe isn't a point guard, but how he develops. Tyrese Maxey as well. So other competitors in the Eastern Conference have that.
Right.
Now, the Knicks have amazing defense on the wings. You have Josh Hart, you have Mikal Bridges. They arguably have the best defensive wings in the Eastern Conference. But when you have a great scoring point guard like Jalen Brunson, who then can't play good defense, dude, Cade Cunningham looks at that like it's barbecue chicken. Like,
Yeah.
And now that puts on for great play in the great playoffs because then, Cade and Jalen Brunson might combine for 70, but the
Right.
Pistons are probably still winning because Cade's probably getting the last bucket.
Yeah.
So I understand the cat criticism, but I do think that it's more of a give and take with Jalen Brunson. Again, I'm not advocating for the Knicks to part ways with Jalen Brunson. He's an offensive juggernaut. Oh, who knows where the Knicks would be without Jalen Brunson. He's a field general, but I just think that I agree. What I'm saying, I'm agreeing with you here in that it seems like this Knicks team has an artificial ceiling.
That's the perfect way to describe it.
I just don't know if that ceiling is high enough for them to even make the NBA Finals. If it was going to happen, it's going to be this year. I said this back in October. If there was ever a year for the Cavs and for the Knicks to make the NBA Finals, it was going to be this year. And the Cavs are kind of just hanging around. They're the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference right now. They've picked up the pace a little bit.
Right.
Curious how James Harden, famous playoff riser, James Harden plays. They know what they're getting with him, obviously. But the Cavs have kind of gotten a little bit better. The Knicks are just chugging along. But if there was going to be an opportunity for these teams to make the finals with these iterations of these teams, it was going to be this year. And if it doesn't happen this year, I don't think it's ever going to happen. And that window might even be closing this year if Jason Tatum comes back.
Right. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Detroit would just kind of walked into the building and was like, oh, wow, the Eastern Conference is wide open. Yeah, sure. I'll go instead. So, one playoff series of experience, by the way, with that team. And they've been the 1 seed for pretty much the entire regular season.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is back to the original point. If Jason Tatum comes back, that changes the landscape of the Eastern Conference. I really do think that because it puts an Eastern Conference contender to an Eastern Conference favorite, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. 2 things really quickly. I want to say you brought up James Harden. I just want to go over this really quickly. Cavs fans, just don't get too excited. You're definitely in the honeymoon phase with James Harden because I feel like he does this every time he gets traded to a new team. He gets disgruntled to where he was before. He asks out. He gets traded to his preferred destination. And I feel like it always starts out super well, super good in the beginning. We saw them play against the Kings the other day, who I didn't even know the Kings had the worst record in the league until I looked up at a TV at work and I saw that they only have like 12 or 13 wins.
They got smoked by the Pelicans on Monday.
Generational tank job right now from the Kings, who are sitting all these unks with these mysterious random injuries that just pop up out of nowhere. So yeah, he played good against the Kings, the worst team in the league. He hit a nice little game tying shot against the Nuggets, but like I feel like it's all going to come crashing down at some point in the postseason. Like I get that trade, you have a higher ceiling, but playoff Harden, there's just too much evidence that shows us that it's not going to work long term in the playoffs. And then I think your point about Jalen Brunson and his lack of defense is very good. And I feel like people don't talk about it enough because of how prolific he is offensively. Like people don't talk about how much of a cone. Like basically what you're saying is Jalen Brunson doesn't have the reputation Luka has as a bad defender, which kind of doesn't really make sense because Luka's arguably the best offensive player in the league, but a lot of people harp on his defense. But I feel like nobody talks about Jalen Brunson's downsides as a defender, even though he's not as good an offensive player as Luka.
I think it's because the Knicks have great defenders elsewhere.
Yeah.
They have better defenders on the wings. I said Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart are the best defensive wings in the Eastern Conference. They might be the best defensive wings in the NBA. When you look at who the Lakers trot out every night for defense, come on now.
And then
it's all the more apparent.
Agreed. And then when you look at Detroit and Boston, those 2 teams that are in front of them, they don't really have that issue because Cade isn't some all-world defender, but he's a big point guard. He's 6'6", 6'7", so like he's able to make plays because of his physical attributes. They have Asar Thompson, who is pretty raw as an offensive player, but is still one of the better defenders in the league.
Mhm.
They have when Isaiah Stewart's not fighting people, he's a damn good rim protector. And Jalen Duren as well is just a big with size on defense. You look at Boston, I brought up how Derek White and Jaylen Brown, like, is that the best two-way backcourt in the NBA? I think it is.
It's
right?
up there, yeah.
So I mean, and then you look at what else they have on their team as well. Vucevic isn't an amazing defender, but I think he'll at least give you some effort there. But that backcourt defense, the Knicks lack it, and those other two teams don't. That's basically what it comes down to. So
Yeah.
that's another reason why I think the Knicks needed to make like a really, really big move that can sort of disguise whatever issues they might have on the defensive end with Jalen Brunson and just their overall ceiling as a team, because they have a complete team, but they don't have enough needle movers for me. There's not enough to win the whole thing.
That's fair. And just another point too, like Detroit is coached by JB Bickerstaff, who has playoff experience. And like, if you look at his track record in the playoffs, obviously it's not, titles on titles, but
Yeah,
it's an experience to know how to exploit, flaws in a team, especially when, like I said, like you and I both said, you have a big point guard who is a better defender than your opponent's point guard, in this case, Detroit, New York. So I'll be curious to see how that works out. I mean, if the playoffs were to start today, New York would be playing Philly. Philly has 30 wins, by the way. Philly has 30 wins. And now I said I should have been more confident in this because I didn't know what Joel Embiid was going to look like, but I would like to add that I said I thought Philly could break the 40 win threshold. They're not there yet, but we're like 55 games into the season and they're at 30 already. So unless they only win 9 games the rest of the way, generational fall off, we might be in good shape for that. So
yeah.
But I like to say, if the playoffs started today, all of that, I can't even really say it, because if you look at the Eastern Conference standings, from the 2-seeded Celtics all the way down to the 10th seeded Hornets, there's only 9 games separating 2 versus 10.
Yeah.
So
the standings are going to change dramatically.
It's pretty compact, especially because like the Cavs are on a 4-game winning streak. The Hornets obviously just won 9, so who knows where on earth the Hornets are going to end up at. But yeah, I don't know.
The Raptors are back on a winning streak.
Mm-hmm. They play Detroit tonight at 4:30. So that'll be a good game.
That's good hoops. That's good hoops.
Speaking of good hoops, we got to talk about the All-Star break, but you brought up something about the Kings really quickly that I want to ask you. I got to ask you something because I saw it, and I feel like this might be a good clip for social media, depending on what you say.
Dude, they're so bad.
I saw a question about how if the Kings are the most ethical tank in all of basketball, because they're not just sitting their players, they're just going out there and playing bad basketball. So my question to you is this: are the Kings the most ethical tank you've ever seen?
I think they have to be. I can't really think of another team in the past that has literally just, they're, like you said, they're not sitting guys. They're not trying to disguise it. They're just literally trotting out what they have, and they're just not good. I mean, you have Russell Westbrook, who's in year 17, year 18, DeMar DeRozan around the same. 2 guys who can't shoot threes at all. They're out there building mansions. They don't have any shooting around those guys at all. Like Zach LaVine is their best shooter, but I think he's been dealing with some injuries this year. He hasn't been very good. And so the Kings just don't have a good roster. Like, there's no other way to put it. Their players just aren't good. Sabonis hasn't been playing that much recently. He's maybe their best player, but he can't shoot anything either. So it's like, you're trotting out what you have. There's no disguising it. They're just not a good team. Like, I legitimately didn't know that a team with all those names on it could be this bad. I wasn't sure it was possible. 12-43. It's crazy.
Do you know what streak they're on right now?
Is it what losing streak they're on? No.
Do you know what number it is?
Is it in the double digits? Oh, I think I know what it is. Isn't it 12?
It's 13.
Okay.
the Kings have lost 13 games in a row.
That's insane.
And a lot of these games haven't necessarily been that close. They did. Here's the duality of Kings basketball right here. Just a few nights ago, they lost just by 6 to the Cavs. Then they go on in prime time cinema against the Pelicans and lose by 26 points.
Dude. Some would say that was the real Super Bowl.
Right? So I always complain about Golden State basketball and how they don't do a whole lot. But I have to understand that my perspective is from a point of privilege.
Yeah.
I've watched my team win multiple titles. We have the greatest point guard ever. Just a few hours away, up I-80, there is basketball hell. That is the
not
only
even
way I can
purgatory
describe it.
anymore. It's just straight hell.
Yeah, which is bad, which sucks because that arena is really nice.
Yeah.
And Sacramento Kings ball should never be this bad. Sacramento Kings ball, I don't know about you, what you remember growing up. Sacramento Kings ball was always mediocre. It was never this bad, though.
I feel like they always hovered around like that like in that 8 to 10 range. Like if the play-in existed when we were growing up, they would be a perennial play-in team. That's what they would have been.
The Western Conference play-in would be the Sacramento Invitational.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can always remember the Kings being, if it was 8, it was top 8 teams make the playoffs, they were 9.
Yeah.
When the play-in started, I remember the first year of the play-in, though, top 10 teams, they were 11.
Right, yeah.
So that I thought they were doomed to repeat that, and then they had the Beam team, and then they thought, you know what? Let's blow this up. So,
dude,
I don't know, man. It's bad, but yeah, the Kings possibly the most ethical tank ever. They're just going out there and having fun.
Yeah.
So
do they? I think they control their draft pick this year, right?
I think so.
So if are one of these dudes, like whether it's Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa, are they going to be a king? Like, is that how this is going to go?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Oh my gosh, I feel like they'll just end up picking the wrong guy, and then one guy.
The Kings historically have picked the wrong guy. Yeah,
they'll just end up picking the wrong guy. That guy will be a bust. Then the other guy will be a superstar wherever else he goes, and then the cycle will just repeat itself all over again.
Yeah, I think have the Kings ever had the first overall pick?
I don't know.
They have. They had the Sacramento Kings have had the first overall pick once since moving to Sacramento. It was in 1989. Do you want to know who they drafted?
It wasn't Chris Webber, was it?
No.
No, it was. Should I know this player?
No. It further proves your point about who they pick with their lottery picks.
Okay. No, I don't know who it was.
They picked Purvis Ellison out of Louisville. Ellison played one season for the Kings before being traded.
Who else was in that draft class? Was that like a really good draft class?
Some other notable names include Sean Kemp, Glenn Rice, Tim Hardaway Sr., Danny Ferry, Nick Anderson, BJ Armstrong, and everybody's favorite, Vladi Dottie, we likes to party, D-Bots.
Oh my god!
So safe to say the Kings missed.
Yeah,
but I don't know, man. It's just brutal out there. I feel bad for them because the uniforms are cool too. Not the uniforms are a gauge about like who's a good team and who isn't, but I don't know. I feel like they have a lot going for them, and the product they put out there is just diabolical.
Their branding and marketing is very good. Their basketball team just sucks.
Which is such a devastating sight because Russell Westbrook and DeMar DeRozan deserve better than the twilight of their career being played out in Sacramento on the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
It's
a travesty.
Both of these two, like years from now, we're going to look back at these photos of them together on this team. And like the next generation of fans will never realize that those were real photos.
Yeah.
They'll think it's AI.
I think the funny thing about the game that they played on Saturday, I think it was against the Cavs,
Mhm.
Travis Scott was there, and I think he was invited by the King. I forget the name of the Kings owner. I think he invited him to the game as like his guest. Like he gave him a custom Kings jersey, but at the end of the game, he's just with James Harden crashing his post-game interview. I mean, him and Travis Scott are friends. It makes sense from the Houston days, but still, like you invited Travis Scott to the game, and he's like fraternizing with the guys on the other team after the game in which the Kings lost. So I mean, that's just the state of Kings hoops, I guess. It's just not in a good place.
It's an evil world we live in.
Yeah.
Before we go, I mean, we got to talk about what Wemby just did, man. 40 points in 26 minutes. Did you watch any of this game?
I saw the highlights. I watched the highlights.
The man had 25 points in 8 minutes.
That's insane.
So I want to talk I'll bring this up whenever I can. Victor Wembanyama had 25 points in 8 minutes. The Golden State Warriors in December 2025 against the Philadelphia 76ers had 10 points in the first 12 minutes of basketball. A whole team. So Victor Wembanyama has outscored a whole team with just that performance before. Like, I don't know. It's just I think he's not. I don't think he's real.
I don't think he is either. I mean,
now granted, the Lakers had it was random guy city up in there.
Yeah,
random guy city.
They had it was like Luke Kennard. I think Bronny got some burn.
Bronny had a couple nice plays.
Yeah.
Had a couple buckets. It was. What was that starting lineup? It was Jake LaRavia, Luke Kennard, Jackson Hayes.
Rui had to have been in there, right?
Rui was there. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the last spot. But yeah, there was no Braun, no Luka, no Reeves, who just came back from injury.
Yeah.
No Marcus Smart, no DeAndre Ayton, although I don't know if that's a positive or negative, to be honest with you. So the Lakers had had random guys out there guarding Wembanyama, but 40 points in 26 minutes is just nasty.
Yeah, that's insane. For as bad as the Lakers have been recently, I feel like they've been getting clowned on a lot. They're still 32-21, which is not a bad record.
No, you know what it is? I think it's that the Lakers, they seem like a glass house. Like they're getting all these wins. They're throwing rocks from a glass house. What I mean by that is I don't think people anticipate them being competitive in the playoffs a lot.
Yeah.
Like when you look at the Western Conference, I mean, both of us picked Denver at the beginning of the season. Right. And I think realistically, it's probably going to be Denver or Oklahoma City, depending on how the playoff seeding falls.
The Spurs, I don't know. The Spurs could do it.
The Spurs are looking good too.
It could make the conference finals.
If San Antonio somehow falls to 4 and they got to play the Spurs and they got to play Oklahoma City round 2, I don't know about that, boss.
Yeah.
Regardless, nobody really adds the Lakers in that conversation.
Right.
Like there's 3-4 teams that they rotate between. It's not the Lakers. And I think that's part of why people aren't taking them very seriously and clowning on them. Obviously the clowning is less when they're winning a lot of games, but they haven't been winning a lot of games. So
right.
They just, I don't know. But yeah, 40 and 26 was diabolical. He had 36 at the half, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah. I really thought I was going to watch
37 at the half. It might've been same thing.
Oh yeah. 30. I was like close enough. Welcome back, Kobe Bryant. But he sat for most of the second half because they didn't need bro in. They were literally just smoking. Like
they were up like 30 at halftime or something like that.
What?
I think weren't they up 30 at half? Something like that. Something crazy like that. So yeah,
Lakers did a whole lot of nothing, but that's what happens, I guess. All right, before we go, last thing, All-Star break this weekend. The All-Star weekend is here. You hyped or not? It's in LA.
I actually am pretty hyped. I say this every time we talk about the All-Star, even going back to, I think it was, what did X say about All-Star weekend? Didn't he say they should get rid of it? Isn't that
something
what he said?
Like that. I don't want to misquote him, but bro hasn't been on his own podcast in years.
He said something like that. I am such a huge basketball fan. I can't not pay attention to All-Star weekend. I'm excited to see if Damian Lillard can win the 3-point contest with a bum Achilles. I think that's going to be something to watch. What else? I think Team World is going to dominate the Americans in this game, even though Giannis and Shea are not playing. Well, I don't know about dominate, but I think they're going to win because I think Wemby obviously plays for the world team, and I think he's going to take the game really seriously. I think he's going to play hard, and I think the world is going to win. And I think it'll be an overall good weekend. So I'm excited for it because it's in LA. So I'll maybe see if I can try and get out to some of the events there and see what's going on with that. But I'm always excited for All-Star Weekend because it also just means that the playoffs are that much closer. So
yeah. I want to just talk about the you talked about Dame Lillard in the 3-point contest. When that was announced, I think it was last week. I was like, what? How's bro eligible? Anyway, I want to talk about the dunk contest. Have you seen who's competing in the dunk contest?
I know it's Carter Bryant from the Spurs. I think that's the only one I know.
So it's Carter Bryant is there, Jace Richardson of the Magic, Keyshawn Johnson from the Heat, and then Jackson Hayes of the Lakers.
That's right. Famous mascot respecter, Jackson Hayes.
Yes. Is this finally the year that the dunk contest gets its respect back?
Dude, like the dunk contest, if it could, like, I don't know what they need to do. I feel like the best idea that I've heard actually came from Stephen A. Smith, where he said that like the dunk contest should honestly not be an NBA event anymore. They should just make it an event where you can get like whatever creators and influencers who are super athletic can do all sorts of dunks. Just let them do it because I think they would take it much more seriously. I think people would relate to it more. It's crazy to say that I feel like whatever content influencer, like I feel like nope, this would never happen. But like if Speed were to do the dunk contest, more people know who Speed is than any of these guys who are participating in the dunk contest. So I feel like it would be a much better event if they just because clearly NBA players don't want to do it. Like I remember VJ Edgecombe got an invitation and he was like, "Nah, bro, I'm good." So
which is so weird to me. Like, why would you not want to compete in the dunk contest?
Wouldn't you? You would think as a kid, like you saw what it meant to be in the dunk contest in the 80s when Jordan was doing it, when Dominique Wilkins was doing it, Vince Carter, Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, all those memorable dunk contests.
I was going to say, this generation of NBA players coming up right now, one of their most formative experiences watching basketball was that Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine dunk contest.
So you would think that more guys would want to do it. And I think it probably like was officially died down when like John Morant and Zion Williamson both said they would never do it. Which I don't get because I feel like if you're a basketball player with hops and you make it to the NBA, I feel like that should be like a dream of yours because you've seen some of the all-time greats do it and it's part of their careers. Like people remember Michael Jordan taking off from the free throw line in the dunk contest. People talk about it all the time. People talk about Vince Carter.
It's right there. Look, I got the poster right there.
People talk about that all the time. So like, why wouldn't you want to create that memory for yourself? Like, how are you too cool for the dunk contest? I don't get it.
Yeah. And it's not like there's a risk of injury.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there always is, but it's not like the Pro Bowl in the NFL, for example, like the risk of injury there. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm not going to point the finger at just the players, but like, I don't know. I feel like people, you said it pretty well. People just aren't, some players feel like they're too cool for the dunk contest, which like, dude, that doesn't make any sense. If you play your cards right and you show out, you get immortalized in the dunk contest. Like, have you ever heard Glenn Robinson III's name since his dunk contest performance? Nope. But you remember his dunk.
I remember him, Hamidou Diallo. I don't think that dude's done anything in the NBA, but people will always, I'll always remember when he dunked over Shaq in that one dunk contest. I think it was 2019 in Charlotte when he dunked over Shaq. So like he did nothing else relevant in the NBA, but he made like a name for himself in the dunk contest. And I actually wanted to ask you this like real quickly before we sign off.
Yeah.
I would never want to give, in terms of like the Jordan LeBron debate, I'm a Jordan guy, but I'm not a toxic Jordan fan. Do you buy into the notion that LeBron not doing a single dunk contest kind of gave other guys a green light, other superstars to say no to doing it? Because obviously a lot of these players grew up idolizing LeBron, and I feel like since they saw him not do it, then they're like, I'm not going to do it either. Because I feel like that's something that Jordan fans dissed LeBron for, never doing a dunk contest. Or maybe I just watched too much Skip Bayless growing up because
I understand why that could be a diss, because it's like, why would you not want to do a dunk contest. I understand. Like, actually, I'm not going to fully disagree with your point there because LeBron has had influence literally since he was like 17 years old.
Yeah.
But not doing the dunk contest, I just, again, if I was an NBA player and I was known for my hops, I could jump out the gym and people knew me for that, and I get invited to do the dunk contest, I personally am doing it.
Yeah.
But I think it's also like, I don't know, I feel like it could be a little bit of a personal pride thing too.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not necessarily that you're too good for the dunk contest, that might be part of it, but like, if you mess up, you might get clowned for it. But in reality, nobody remembers the misses. Like, I feel like, and maybe I'm just biased and I'm viewing it in a way to justify telling these players, come on, compete in the dunk contest. Like, I don't remember any of the misses. I only remember the good makes.
Well, the funny thing about that is that's true, but I feel like people don't want to do it because they'll be afraid that, I don't know, they'll miss or whatever, like you said. But I feel like something that has also gotten criticized a lot when it comes to the dunk contest recently is like how many attempts guys are getting nowadays. Because I feel like you'll see a guy miss a super cool dunk attempt and then he'll make it after like 6 tries and then it's like not as cool. So I feel like, I don't know.
Didn't it used to be 3 attempts?
Yeah, but that also just goes into like the caliber of guys that are doing it. Like whoever does it, it's a great opportunity for you, but it just shows that we need like the guys who are really, really known for their dunking, can really pull it off to participate, to give it that flair again.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, so I'm not going to say that LeBron is fully to blame for not doing the dunk contest, and that's why players don't do it now, but I don't think it's a coincidence that he's the first main superstar to never do one, and then like now we start seeing that trend now. So
yeah,
I won't fully exempt him, but I think it's more of a larger trend, not just from LeBron James, because I feel like there's been other because like Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine doing it should have like theoretically reignited it, and you would argue that it did, but since then it's been downhill. So we'll see. But anyway, that's all we got for this episode of Professional Hate Watching Association. We now are heading to the All-Star break. We'll have a lot to talk about next week then with catching up on all of this. So for now, that's all we got. For Daniel, I'm Ethan. We will see you next time.